Copilot get some eyes. Xbox has a big release, and it's a Friday, which means we're back. Happy Friday, friends. It's Friday, and we are back. I did not record anything last week because it was in the United States, it was Turkey Day, and so, I ate my turkey. I took a little vacation from a podcast because there was not anything going on. But this week, my friends, there are things to be discussed because Microsoft just published some blog posts. Xbox had potentially their biggest release of the year that's not named Call of Duty. So let's just dive in. Hopefully you had a wonderful week. Here comes the tech news, hot and heavy. So Copilot Vision is starting to roll out. Now this is a browsing companion, if you will, at least as of right now. So it's a new feature that allows Microsoft's AI assistant capable of analyzing what's on a web page. And yeah, it's only available to Copilot Pro subscribers, and I think even just a subset of that. So it's not rolling out to everybody. This little thing cloud service, whatever you want to call it, just navigates with you. However, it's only on certain web pages, and it's pretty clear that Microsoft is taking this very, very cautiously. It only works with Edge, and it's not going to, as of right now, work on your banking sites. And so I'm guessing that they're limiting it to a lot of search-related content. I have a lot of mixed opinions on this. Most of them are like, yeah, no thanks. Microsoft is doing what I would refer to as the Amazon Alexa approach from many years ago, where they're throwing everything at the wall. AI, literally everything, because we don't know what's going to stick and what's going to shake out in the long term be useful. But I don't know, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I will be pleasantly surprised to have an AI companion reading all my websites with me. Maybe it'll make contextual search a little bit better, like you could search for things later. I don't know. I mean, I don't really think the AI needs to know what I'm browsing, and I don't think we really want to know what everyone else is browsing. So whatever, it's a thing. It's opt-in. It's don't lose your beans over it. But hey, it's there. It's there. Things that aren't there, by the way. So you may have seen a bunch of headlines lately saying, hey, if you're running unsupported, I shouldn't say unofficial, unsupported Windows 11 hardware, you might see a watermark that says, hey, you, sir, are not clean. You need to go buy new hardware. So as my buddy Paul pointed out, this actually isn't new. It's just never been turned on. I think Microsoft actually announced this initially. And so it's like more of headlines just of a thing that already existed. We just hadn't seen it. And so whatever. Microsoft is clearly not making changes to the Windows 11 requirements. They actually published a blog post, if you will. It says, look, we are not lowering our standards. We will not do such a thing to allow more Windows 10 devices to run Windows 11. So TPM 2.0 is here to stay. Microsoft is putting their foot down, or I should say maybe their enter key down. I don't know, whatever, their mouse down, something down. It doesn't matter. TPM 2.0 requirement is sticking around from Windows 11. So it looks like all those Windows 10 devices that are not supported, they're just not going to be supported. And so you have two options. You can pay the $30 dues to get the security updates, or you just, kind of YOLO it. As the use would say, you just kind of raw dog your Windows 10. I don't know. Maybe that's going to get this flagged for something. But yeah, so there you go. So all those devices will just go kaput and become e-waste eventually, a little faster than maybe anticipated. Other things happening around this one is actually interesting. I candidly need to look more into this one. So the Windows Store will now let you download app executables directly. So like just vanilla or virgin, I should say, .exe files, which is super interesting to particularly me, like on the corporate side over at Stardock, because we haven't put our stuff into the store for various reasons. However, if we could just slap a .exe in there, and then because we have our own update pipeline, we have our own e-commerce platform, we have the whole infrastructure already built, and to unwind some of that, and Microsoft has different licensing than we do, and so it wasn't quite there. However, if we can just go slap an exe in there, and then it downloads and you get the app, and then it uses literally all of our infrastructure that we've already built and control and maintain and support, that's a different conversation. So I need to look into this, and maybe I'll be able to help bring some of Stardock services and apps to the store, at least for discoverability purposes, and then we can go from there. So we will see. We will see. Microsoft has also clarified that it's not using your Office documents to train its AI. There are again headlines saying that Microsoft is reading everything in your Word doc and then absorbing it and making it into its AI powers. They claim that they are not doing that, so I can't independently verify that they're not. You just kind of got to take them at their word, which is, it is what it is. It is what it is. Also, Microsoft has gotten a little bit more testy these past few weeks. So when it comes to antitrust and regulation, not everything is antitrust, but at least regulatory bodies like the EU, the UK, and of course the FTC here in the United States, Microsoft is no longer shy. For a while, they were really bobbing, ducking, and weaving and trying to stay out of the limelight. For like Microsoft is like, hey, we're not doing anything bad. Don't look at us. And now all of a sudden they're coming out. So the FTC is being accused by Microsoft here of leaks about some upcoming probe into the company. And Microsoft, for its part, is saying like, look, we're trying to get the documents that these websites are talking about, and FTC is just ignoring us. They're leaving us on read. And so they wrote a LinkedIn blog post. I don't know if they've gotten the documents yet or not, but Microsoft is accusing them of ethics violations because, hey, if they're leaking stuff about this stuff without Microsoft having the ability to respond with an educated conversation because they don't know what the charges are, sort of stuff, then, hey, I mean, you can see Microsoft's point. So we don't know if the FTC wasn't intentionally leaking it. It doesn't take a lot of willpower to understand that, hey, maybe there's one person over there who like saw this on the printer and like ran to their bro and was like, hey, let's whatever, and tell the press. But either way, it appears that the UK is like looking to find Microsoft like $1 billion. The EU has their own investigation ongoing. The US here has its own investigation going on. And so we'll see what happens. There's a lot of moving parts and all these different things, but I think it's pretty much clear at this point that the big techs, right? Apple is getting nailed by things. Google is getting nailed by things. Microsoft is getting nailed or appears to be about to get nailed by things. And so things are happening related to these juggernauts who have been untouchable for a long time. And so I'm not trying to put one opinion one way or another. If it's right or wrong, those are for the courts to decide and people who have more data than I do. I'm just merely pointing out that all these companies who have had a long tenured top of the food chain mechanism are now feeling a lot more pressure than they have probably in the past 10, 15 years would be my expectation there. So, on to the gaming news, because there was gaming news on the Xbox side. First off, Indiana Jones launch, which we'll get here in a second. But first, we must look backwards. And by backwards, the year in review is now available. So you have to go to the Xbox website and then log in with your Xbox account. That's the only way they can pull this information. And I have, for all critics aside, put my year in review up here in the podcast, because people will be like, Brad doesn't even play Xbox. What do you mean? Why is he doing a podcast about whatever? And so here's my numbers. I realize there are people who have more hours than me. There are people who have more games than me. There are people who scored more points than me. I don't care. I played 403 hours, which don't tell my wife. I mean, if you think about it, that's more than 1 hour of Xbox per day. There's people in the thousands, and good for you. I just like to play Xbox. I really like to play Call of Duty. This is almost all this FPS content that you're seeing here is me playing Call of Duty. Now, there are other titles in there. I do play a decent amount of Age of Empires and Vampire Survivors, and I jump in and out of other titles that come on board Game Pass. So, you know what? There's my Xbox year in review. So at least you know what I'm talking about, Xbox. I at least play Xbox. Like I play an hour. Just, you can assume at least an hour a day I'm sitting in front of the box. It's usually more than that, right? Like 2-3 hours at a time, but not every day. You guys get it. Anyways, I'd love to know what you guys played, what your kind of top titles were, and you can go check that out. One game I will not be playing is Forza Horizon 4, because that is going to be going away unless you go make a purchase quickly. I feel like we talk about this every once in a while. I suspect this is just a licensing thing, right? They have to license all the vehicle models. They have to license music and everything else. And so I suspect they have a number of years, and it's like, we're just at that point. If you own the game, then you can continue to play it. But if you are wanting to buy it after that date, I think that's when it goes away. Forza Horizon 5, still available, obviously. But yeah, just if somebody's whatever. This was a little bit last week, but Google came out and said, look, the reason why the Xbox Store hasn't launched here is because it's not safe. And that's just a cop-out. That's what they were getting grilled from on everybody. And so it's just posturing. They try to say, look, Everything has to go through the Google App Store. That way we can control it, and we're responsible for it. We are responsible individuals, and so we're responsible for all this. But we know that's baloney. We know it is, and so it's them just trying to hold on to the last grasp of everything they can in these mobile stores because they're very lucrative from a margin perspective. And finally, Indiana Jones. The Great Circle has launched, and so it's, I would say, generally speaking, pretty positive. Pretty positive. Like the reviews, I have not played it yet. I believe if you paid the extra dollar dues to get early access to the game, you can now download it as it rolls out or whatever. However, one thing I will point out is that I would say most people like the game. There are the negative reviews, like The Verge was kind of negative, and there were some other negative reviews, so Verge was not alone. If you don't like cutscenes, this may not be like your top 10 favorite game. However, if you're like looking for story-driven narrative first-person games, you're probably going to like it. So like when you see reviews, there's a lot of 9s and 10s, like in 5 out of 5. There's a lot of those. And then there's like this batch of like, 6s and 7s or something like that. And it's most like, if you go read it, the common thread between all of them is that they didn't like all of the cutscenes, and like it felt kind of drawn out because that's where the story happens. And so anyways, I would consider this probably a pretty big win for Xbox, getting this many 9s and 10s from big name publications. IGNs and the works are doing it. And so it seems like they've done a good job. This game appears, the reviews aren't like extremely buggy. Like we always kind of go back to Redfall where the game was like basically unplayable. That does not appear to be the case here in anything whatsoever. So congrats to the developers and Xbox and everybody else who worked on that for getting that out the door. It appears that they have done a pretty darn good job, which is exactly what Game Pass needs, and leading right into the critical holiday season here. Actually, I should say we're probably in the middle of it, right at the end of the day. But a lot of people will probably be waking up on Christmas and potentially playing Indiana Jones. So that is a very good thing for Microsoft because, hey, it seems like people are enjoying it. So let's get to the questions of the week. Let's get to the questions. Oh, where's my refreshing the thread, which, by the way, I usually post this on Twitter. I can't get the word out of my mouth. Out of Twitter. I was going to Twitter or Zitter or could not enunciate. It doesn't matter. I've been posting a lot more on Blue Sky. So you can find me on Blue Sky at bdsams.com. On Twitter, it's at bdsams. On YouTube, it's at bdsams. On Xbox, it's at bdsams. And on Insta or Threads, it's at bdsams. You might be noticing a thread or a common theme among those usernames. And if you did, I know that you are the smartest of the group because nothing gets by you. Anyways, but yeah. Anyways, you can find me there. So Trent T says, anyone notice that their laptop fan is running a lot more on 24H2? My laptop is Windows 11 supported. Could it just be, or is it running hotter than before? I will tell you that 24H2, from my own personal experiences and data I have collected from elsewhere, 24H2 is a little bit more buggier than it seems like we're used to in a release. I don't have a great like underlying reason why yet, but it would not surprise me if this is potentially true. I've bugs off the top of my head. There's a taskbar bug with the thumbnails. I know that one for a fact. There's an issue with the clipboard manager not always firing, often requires a restart. There's potential fan issue. There's the Ubisoft games are wreaking havoc on 24H2. So there's various bugs. Microsoft is starting to roll it out more aggressively, so we're probably going to see more of these things bubble up. But just be aware that, like, hey, if you are noticing something, I don't know if I would say it's placebo. I would genuinely keep an eye on it. I don't have a specific, like, yeah, my laptop fan's running more, because my primary usage is on a tower PC. But, this laptop's on 24H2. It's not running the fan, but although it's only been on about 15, 16 minutes right now. Mad Finest says, how strong was the marijuana, if you will, OpenAI smoking when they came up with the $200 per month subscription service? So OpenAI announced a new monthly subscription service for $200 dues per month. And I can tell you that for most people listening to this, it's not targeted at you. So this is supposed to be their best model. This is the top shelf, the creme de la creme of OpenAI, $200 a month. And what do you get for that? You get more reasoning from the model. I mean, basically, I think they talked about an additional loop of like reasoning and rationale. So basically, it should be like less hallucination, better for data analysis. So I will tell you right now, the interesting thing is OpenAI, I believe, loses money, right? They're not making money right now. They also know that they've got the hottest product in the neighborhood and that people are happily paying $20 per month to use it. They were targeting these high-end users, and they're trying to find that price floor, or I should say in this case, that price ceiling. How often are people willing to pay $200 a month for the best AI to help circulate and peruse their data, if you will? And so we'll find out. From a corporate use perspective, $200 is nothing. If you're a scientist and you have huge buckets of data and you want the absolute best analysis without having to do revisions and work, right now it's going to cost you $200 a month from OpenAI, and they will get a lot of people to pay it. I have zero doubt that that is it. It's just not for you or I. So there you go. Brian Hoyt says, Microsoft seems to be leaving no doubt on the need for TPM 2.0 for Windows 11 and going forward. However, they seem to be However, if I could enunciate here again, they seem to be leaving the door open for more CPUs. Do you think they will rise the CPU list to allow more 10 to 11 transitions? I think what the point here is that the blog post was titled TPM 2.0. I have zero gut feeling about how many older chips have TPM 2.0 but were not on that CPU list. I don't know, because these are old chips at that point. You're talking like 6-7 year old Intel chips, at least 5 years old, I would believe. And so I don't think that's the limiting factor. I think that they're just staying hard fast on the TPM 2.0, which really just, there's probably a generation of Intel chips that's like, here's where we made the switch, and then that's just what they did. Same with AMD and everything else. TPM is not new, so it does go back quite a few years. I don't think they're going to revise that CPU list, because here's the reason why I think not. Let's say there was a percentage of chips that could support that scenario, right? TPM 2.0, but weren't on that list for whatever reason. Microsoft going back and revising the list, all that does is open themselves up to criticism, because people are like, well, I could have kept my old PC and then updated Windows 11, but instead you said I couldn't do this, so I went and bought a new PC, and now you're screwing me over, Microsoft. Typical big money Redmond, just screwing over they open themselves up to unnecessary criticism by making this revision this late in the life cycle of Windows 11, which is launched over 3 years ago at this point. So I don't foresee that happening. And Mr. PKI dropping a double dose of questions, one for each week, that because last week and then this week, whatever, we didn't podcast last week. He says his first question is, Windows Hello is limited to a small number of laptops. She said, is it? And I believe it is. I was shocked to buy a new high-end Alienware laptop, and the camera is not supported for Windows Hello. The family of gamers were disappointed. Yeah, the actual number of third-party cameras, I'm trying to think, that live outside the little bezel that support Windows Hello is shockingly small. Microsoft, which I have never quite understood, I don't believe requires Windows Hello on any, I don't know about business laptops. There's some enterprise laptops, I'm not sure. At least on the consumer side, does not require Windows Hello capabilities. So I still am in favor of the fingerprint reader. We all know why they don't, because it's cost prohibitive to introduce this stuff. But yeah, Windows Hello has existed for a long time. I'm looking over here at Surface Studio that I believe has Windows Hello, and it hasn't seen like widespread adoption. I should say mass market appeal adoption. It exists and it's available for these companies to use, but I wonder if Microsoft charges an extra premium for that. I genuinely do not know this. I wonder if there's if you're shipping that'd be such a dumb thing to do, but that's something Microsoft would do. Like, you could imagine Microsoft saying like, look, you want to ship a version of Windows 11 with Windows Hello enabled and you want to have it certified, you got to throw us an extra $10 per device, whatever that number, $2 per device. It doesn't matter. Wouldn't surprise me if they do that. And that extra additional licensing, vendors have determined it does not increase the value of the product. And so they're not certifying their devices, because at the end of the day, they don't get the additional value. Like if you see two laptops side by side and one is $15 more than the other and it says supports Windows Hello and this one doesn't, people tend to choose the one that is lower priced. So there's that. And Mr. PK with the last questions here is, what do you think of the new cloud PCs? Are they going to be the next trend for enterprises? I don't think they'll be the next trend for mass market enterprises. I think there are certainly scenarios like banking or high security situations where you just need a quote unquote thin client, right? What's old is new. Sun is coming back around again. What is that? Sun ecosystems with the thin client stuff. So it's old is new. It's coming back around. Actually, someone was probably screaming into their headset or their podcast into their Zune. These things have always been around, which you're not wrong. The funny thing is that it doesn't support Microsoft's new 365 Link, doesn't support Azure Virtual Desktops, which has always been an oddity, but it doesn't. And so it only supports that new, Windows 365 in the cloud thing. So I don't think it's going to be mass market appeal, but there are definitely segments, and Microsoft felt the need to build it to address that segment. And I think that's it. So, feels good to be back in the seat. When you skip a week, you kind of, it takes a while to compile all these notes and all these images at the end of the day, right? These images all have to get done, cropped and whatever, and set up. And so if something's wrong with this podcast, by the way, if you've made it all the way to this point, I have switched over to Clipchamp for my editing after Adobe really annoyed me and made it nearly impossible to download the previous version, or the version that I bought, which was like Adobe 2022, was nearly like I couldn't find it from them, which is really annoying and very anti-consumer and very annoying. I had to format my machine. I reinstalled everything on my primary box, and so Clipchamp, I'm giving it a spin, and we will go from there. So if the audio or something's bad, blame the champ. Please don't blame me. As always, my friends, thanks for tuning in. We'll catch all of you right back here next time. Make sure to keep it subscribed here because the BS on this podcast is me.